Welcome to EXP CultureCast, EXP Realty's official diversity, equity, and inclusion podcast. I'm your host, Cody Gilkison, the visionary leader behind EXP's DEI strategy. I believe that we all have a story to tell, and that's where this show really shines. We are a vibrant tapestry of diverse backgrounds and experiences, and that's our superpower. In each episode, we'll sit down with thought leaders, industry experts, and change makers who are driving meaningful conversations and actions in the realms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. From personal stories of triumph to deep dives into systemic challenges, CultureCast is your compass in navigating the complex landscape of DEI. This is CultureCast, the bi-weekly podcast about what makes us us. Hey everybody, it's your boy Cody Gilkison, your Senior Manager of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion here at EXP. We are here in Season 2, Episode 12, and we have the wonderful, the incomparable Victoria Roberts is here with us today. Hi, Victoria. Welcome.
Hey, thank you for that intro. I'm blushing.
So for those who don't know, Victoria is our designated managing broker for Alaska. She's also the co-chair of EXP Capable, which is our brand new One EXP resource group that is all about folks with disabilities and the families and friends and allies of those with disabilities. It touches all of us, right? Essentially.
Yes.
It's something we get asked about all the time is where is a group for this? Well, we're here. So, Victoria, I want to jump right in. Can you share a little bit about your journey in real estate and what initially drew you into real estate way back in 2004?
Yeah. So in 2004, I was working 2 jobs. I was a manager at Walmart, believe it or not. That was fun times. And then I also ran a home daycare just because I feel I don't have enough chaos in my life. And so I did both of those. And, you know, I really wanted to make a difference and make an impact. And I didn't know what that looked like. And home ownership was one of the biggest impacts I could make because I did have one of my children at 16. And in Alaska, sometimes we're a little behind the times than what the lower 48 can be. It was way before the TV shows of the teen mom and everything was glorified and glamorified, which, is what it is on that. So there was a lot of discrimination I faced having my son at 16 and so early. And so I utilized programs that I could. I went to college. I used it for good so that I could give back later. But I faced a lot of rejection on finding a place to live with me and my kids. And I actually was on the street for quite some time with my children. And so they wouldn't accept Section 8 housing or anything along those lines. And then I wasn't married. And so there was a whole bunch of things that they kind of would throw in there. And that was my first thing with discrimination and hitting it head on. And you're young, so you move on. And so I really got into home ownership for that purpose because I feel everyone deserves a home, no matter your income level, your walk of life, your path of life, what you've had to overcome. You need somebody to advocate for you. And I feel that it's a platform that I could easily do. I always wanted to be an attorney. But with 2 young kids, I had my first one at 16, my second at 18. And with 2 young kids, that kind of was a little bit of a harder reach without the support. And so real estate was the next best thing to be able to advocate for people and to help give them something that, you know, that feeling of waking up in the middle of the night and walking in your own kitchen and making your own peanut butter and jelly sandwich and saying, I got this. And that feeling is what got me started. Very long-winded answer, but that's what.
No, that's powerful. I actually didn't know that you were unhomed for a while. I myself was homeless for a very short amount of time, but I have children. You know, it was just me. And I, luckily had friends that I could rely on, sort of couch surf.
Yes.
Yeah, it certainly puts into perspective the power of being able to shut and lock your door and this is yours, right?
It does. A great friend of mine took me and my 2 kids in and helped me finish my college and get up to where I am. So I'm very thankful for her. But it's very scary out there. Discrimination comes in all sources. And I've hit it several times throughout my career since then, but that was the jump start. That was the catalyst that led me to real estate.
There you go. So since then, you've had a remarkable 2-decade career in real estate. What have been some of the biggest shifts you've experienced, and how have they shaped your approach to leading a team today? What's changed about real estate in 20 years?
Everything.
Yeah.
I would honestly say everything. And, every shift I've been through has been a little different. You always have that same kind of undertone, but the things that make it shift is different in your real estate, whether it's a buyer's market, seller's market, balanced market, or I call it the COVID market. Because that was just weird. And it was interesting to get through. One of the things that I would say that I've learned from all of them is I thrived in the 07 and 08 timeframe when the market was starting to kind of crash down. And that's because I read a lot of books. I made sure I was educated. I followed leaders that have been in steps before me. One of them in particular was in the fall of the 80s. And he would tell me that for every house he bought, he got a free condo, and he would put a house on a credit card. Yes, absolutely insane when the 80s market fell. And so I learned a lot from him. And one of the things he said is, don't be afraid to go where other realtors are afraid to go. You need to go away. And so I went and started helping out some neighborhoods that were more of the underprivileged neighborhoods, and because they were hit the most when the economy goes down. And so I started plugging in there and started helping there. And it actually ended up, ironically, helping my business and raising it up to a huge standard. Those were my best years. They were the ones that I made the most amount of money in, never intending to. I just kind of followed the leadership of what they had laid out prior to. Sometimes we want to put our sparkle on it, and we need to not put our sparkle on things and just follow the wheel that was already invented.
Yeah, there you go.
Challenge.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, there's a lot of great insights in there.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I want to talk about EXP Capable because I love EXP Capable. I'm one of the co-founders of EXP Capable. I think it's such an important thing. We get asked about it all the time. Do you have something for the disabled? And at previous companies I worked at, that was, the most vital resource group, right? Was the one that was for folks with disabilities. What drew you to EXP Capable?
What drew me here is that you can advocate for changes in systems. Because for me, I have found that since I've been walking this journey, people that don't have those specific challenges, they don't really understand. They don't really see the need. So if you can have an embodiment of people from all different walks of life, and maybe have different disabilities, but yet need same things, then you can have one big voice. And that big voice really helps with change. I'll say one thing about EXP Capable is, I don't know if it came from there. I like to give Capable credit for it. But, I have a EXP laptop upstairs, and then I have my computer system down here because I live in a 2-story house. And some days I cannot do the stairs. And so I hop around, and they allow me to be able to do that. And it's their equipment that is allowing me to do that. And I will say, not every company is as kind to the Capable as EXP. I honestly have to say that. I see all of my friends going through a lot of rough times out there in the world. And so EXP Capable is important because we have an amazing company that listens to its people.
That's right. And we've always thought EXP Capable would be unique in its advocacy efforts because it's a voice for folks who need more from their company to be able to be heard by the company, right?
Absolutely. Well, and we all have stuff to give. Everybody that is capable, I'm not a fan of the word disabled. It drives me nuts. But the capable, every one of us have something to offer to a job place or to a collective. And oftentimes we can be disregarded. And the Capable, they give us that. I can't say much more about the Capable as far as just, it makes you feel not alone. And that is really important.
It's, and it speaks to the key mission of One EXP, which is building community and having the voices of its members heard. We already talked about that. And providing, helpful guidance for those seeking to be better allies for this community. Right?
100%.
And we absolutely can provide that. I think Capable is so cool, and I can't wait to see it grow. It speaks to me personally. I'm pretty vocal about some mental challenges that I have, right? I suffer from ADHD and pretty serious anxiety disorder and depression. I'm awkward in a crowd, to say the least.
Me too. I always say the wrong thing or say something at the wrong time. And I'm like, well, it's just how my brain works. It's chasing squirrels. I don't know what else to say.
Right, yeah. And, my father is a quadriplegic. So that's something that, I've been around physically handicapped people for a really, really long time. My dad got in a motorcycle accident in 1994 when I was 9 years old. And I was there that day. Didn't see all of it happen, but the aftermath was crazy, and how my family reacted, because he was sort of the pillar of the family and owned the business that employed all the rest of the family, and lived next to family, and we were very, very close. And I lived at Shepherd Spinal Center with my dad for 6 months after his accident, because everybody else has lives and jobs, and I was a kid, and it was the summer, so I stayed at the hospital. So living at the spinal clinic for 6 months, in that point of the development of my brain, right, really, I really got to know a lot of people that I'll never forget there. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Nurses and other patients and the folks that Dad did physical therapy with. And so speaking and advocating for the disabled, or for the differently able or the capable, or however you want to say it, is something that's been ingrained in me for a really, really long time. But I always then add that caveat that someone once had a quote, Jonathan Lovitz, when I was at the LGBTQ plus Real Estate Alliance, that I use a lot, and it's it doesn't have to happen to you for you to give a damn. So
Correct.
This is me expressing to you guys that you don't have to go through something like me or Victoria have been through in our lives to care about this, right? I think it's a human thing. Nobody chooses to be different, right? Sometimes
No.
we just are, right? And how do we uplift each other and make sure that all of us are able to come to the table at work and in our lives in an equitable way, meaning we all get the same access, right?
And it's so important, because, when life happens to you, it can really take a toll, and you need to have some purpose. If you don't have purpose on the days that are the roughest for you, it's going to be more of a challenge to pull through those days. And so that is one thing that Capable gives us, is a purpose. It gives us a voice to advocate for others, because there's so many different ailments out there that people face, and to go through what you went through and your story and your father's story, you saw the world from two different eyes. You saw the world at a young age, standing and sitting. And since I've had to use mobility aids more and more and more, I have some spinal issues going on. I have the disc degeneration. I have an extra tailbone. Don't know where that came from. I thought that was kind of, I know, right? 1% of the population has an extra tailbone. The doctor said that's awesome. It equates to more pain. So I was like, well, yay me. And
Winner.
so, yeah, and my C5, my C6. So I have issues there. So I can't fall down. I need to be careful, because some bad things can happen with that C5 if I were. And so to see the world from walking to where I used to be, where I was hiking all the time and did Taekwondo, paid no mind to the Capable, really. To go to being where I am today, there are so many things that are blockers for really smart people that are immobile. And I went to a realtor convention just recently, and they had vendors in the building that we could go downstairs and shop our local vendors and support our local people. I couldn't get down there because there was no elevator access to it, and you had to do the stairs. And the stairs is, you have to, when you're capable, no matter what your ailment is, you always have to make a decision of, is this worth it to me? Because it's going to cost you something. And so those are really important things. And that's one thing Capable does as well. When we have our big conventions, we have a voice. to make it easier for us to navigate no matter what our ailment is and partake on a high level at our EXP conventions. And so that is one thing I really do love, like getting seats that have handicap on them. So all the seats aren't taken, so people have a place to sit or roll in if they need to. You know,
Right.
Those are important small things.
They are. And it's so important for even those of us that have a disability that's an invisible disability, for anybody that is more physically able. It's so important for you to advocate for those that don't have those same abilities that you do, right?
Absolutely.
It is your job in society to call it out when somebody parks in a handicapped space that shouldn't be. It is your job in society in the movie theater to ask somebody to move out of the handicapped seats that are specially put for the people sitting with folks in a wheelchair, right? And if I'm somebody that clocks every doorway that I know my dad couldn't fit through. I clock every staircase that means my dad couldn't have entry to this room, right? My dad, me and my dad disagree about the manner in which I approach situations sometimes, because I can be a little
stout.
The word it's Halloween time, so we'll say it rhymes with witch. I can be that sometimes.
I can too.
But there was a time when we went to the movie theater, and we were not anticipating that it would be in. We always went to this theater, but we went to see a movie that was. We usually went to movies after a few weeks they'd been out, but this was in the primary theater in the middle, and there were steps and only steps to get up there. So my dad, my 350-pound dad, in his 500-pound power chair, I was like, "You find whoever can pick him up these stairs, right? That if you don't want a lawsuit, somebody is picking my dad up and putting him in that theater, because
absolutely,
that's the way this is going to go. We paid for a ticket that guarantees us access, right? And this is me illustrating that sometimes you have to be that stern with people because they don't realize how inaccessible something could be.
It is an extremely inaccessible world. And I think that for those of us that have platforms like we do, or that are boisterous, we need to advocate for others, because some of them are not as boisterous. Everyone contributes to advocacy in different ways. Some are more quieter and some are more loud. You need all of them, but you definitely also need the loud. I mean, I have a friend of mine that's in the Ehlers-Danlos group that I have on Facebook, and she went to go get on a plane. In the beginning, they tell everybody they can come on if they have babies or disabilities or whatnot. She got up and she didn't have her cane with her that day. She didn't need it that day. And sometimes we don't like to use them. Right. And she tried to get on the plane, and the lady wouldn't let her on the plane and said she didn't look disabled. And she just did a post of shame on you to the airlines that did it. And me, if I was sitting there, I would have made
oh my God, I would have
made
such a big
noise
deal out of that.
It's like, listen, you don't judge them. If she's lying, then that's on her, right? If she's lying, it's on her. But don't you dare tell her that she's not. And then my husband made this comment, and he's like, well, love, that's why I make you have your walker or your cane in airports, so that way it doesn't happen to you. And I said, no. I said, if I don't want to use it that way that day because I want to power through, because I need that confidence to still power through, I shouldn't have to use it to accommodate to make somebody feel sorry for me so they don't question. That is exactly so wrong.
Yep. Yeah. That's my dad framed it to me one day. It's not. Think about how inappropriate it would be. Basically, if you follow that train of thought down, what you're asking is that anyone with a disability that we can't actually see wear a handicap placard on their shirt all day.
Yeah.
That's
100%. Right.
That's really what they're asking. You need to be more visible with your disability. And that is so unconscionable, right? It's just it's not appropriate to say someone doesn't look disabled. That's wild, right?
No, it's really a challenge when you look at some of these invisible illnesses. With Ehlers-Danlos, our mascot's the zebra. And the reason why it's a zebra is because no stripe looks alike. So some of us with Ehlers-Danlos, some of them are on feeding tubes. Some of them cannot get out of bed. Some of them, because it's a connective tissue disorder.
Right.
And so it affects everybody differently. Everyone has somewhat of the same stuff, but different effects throughout there. And so, you know, I lost my train of thought where I was going with that. Oh, invisible illness. You can't compare a person or what they look like to what's going on inside of them, because
That's
you
exactly
don't know. Right. And I have a lot of people that are in my arena that we were talking about parking in the handicap spot. There are videos out there of my friends where people come up and give them like major witch stuff because they don't look handicapped. And, you know, you need to call them out, but you also need to say, hey, how are you doing today? Do you need help? Check and see if they're handicapped before you go there.
There you go.
You know, see if are they lying or are they handicapped before you actually go there. And you could tell, because even if they're not using a cane, like with me on days I go to get out of my car, I walk funny. So you can tell, like, okay, you know.
I mean, but it's another one of those things that we can't see your connective tissue.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So you'll have good days, you'll have bad days, but it's not on us, right? I think I spoke too abruptly when I said that about the handicap spaces. Sometimes I'll be at my Walmart and see somebody, you know, pull up in their big old, you know, 30-foot high truck with the big wheels and jump down and come. I'm like, what are you doing?
In some ways you can tell.
Sometimes you really can tell. Yeah. But sometimes you can't, right?
Oh yeah. Well, you know, people will also use their family members handicapped to park there, and that's not right either. And so you can, for the most part, you can tell if you give them an opportunity to get out of the car. Yeah. You know, you'll be able to see it in some regard.
Right.
Most of the time.
And it should be noted that there are some handicap spots that specifically have the space next to them that's meant for a van's door to come down.
Yes.
To let a wheelchair out. Those spaces are a little more protected to me. Those spaces are the spaces that it needs to be someone who needs the extra room to maneuver a wheelchair out of 100%. Those spaces. Right? So yes, there's those. Otherwise, my dad is just going to park across 4 parking spaces in the back of the parking lot and wheel all the way down there, and you're going to deal with it.
Yep. That's how it rolls.
Just go right up to the curb, because what are they going to say?
we push our way through. Right. But capable has really helped me because it also gives me security as a capable person with my job too, that it's not a stigma that you have to be behind and inside a closet and remain there. You are able to have a voice and show that you can contribute to things, but you have an advocacy group for you within your job place. And that's important.
Yeah, it's so real. Do you want to, now I know maybe not everybody has heard of Ehlers-Danlos. Do you want to give people kind of the lowdown of what that is that you're dealing with?
Yeah, so Ehlers-Danlos, you know, like I said, it's a connective tissue disorder. We are prone to POTS, which I have. I'm on heart meds for that. So like when you stand up too fast, you know, you might pass out, things of that nature, or sit up too fast, or turn your head the wrong way. We have a hard time staying hydrated. A lot of anyone that's double jointed, usually your dancers, your ballets, and if you really pay close attention to a lot of your ballerinas in their prime, because I did gymnastics, I did taekwondo, I hiked, I was so active, you will see them at their prime. But then when you see them later on in life, they have arthritis really bad, or they're bound to a wheelchair, they're bound to mobility aids, because what gave them that amazing flexibility skill is now harming their body. And so it's, you know, like we have a gain sign, like I can do that. So my thumb can touch my wrist, you know, I can pray behind my back. I can put my hands and pray upright behind my back.
Oh my God.
You know, things of that nature. When I run, I look like that rubber doll that just is flailing like this. And then I can't stop if I go too fast. I just have to fall down because my joints are going like this as I'm running, you know, because there's nothing holding them together. Wow. And so you start ending up, for me, I ended up 3 years ago not being able to walk without severe pain. And they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. It's been a journey. Most of us with Ehlers-Danlos are not diagnosed in a very timely fashion. So they threw steroids at me and kept throwing steroids. So steroids for 2 years, which I now found out you shouldn't be on that long. So I ended up gaining a lot of weight. but I'm working on losing that. But with mine, it affects my joints, it affects my muscles, it affects my bones. And since I have such severe back issues, it affects my nerves in my body as well. And so some days are good, some days are rough. You got the brain fog, and then you got gut issues because that's all connective tissue. But
Right.
there's quite a few people with Ehlers-Danlos that can't walk. There's no way they can. We run out of energy really fast. We run out of our spoons, is what we call them. It's the spoon theory. But it's a connective tissue disorder, and none of us are the same. We all are very, very different. And, not one is, in my eye, not one is better or worse than the other because we all have our pain. But it equates to where I have pain every day. There is not a day that I am not in pain. I'm in pain talking to you now. So I can pinpoint exactly. And one of the things I'll say is, like, doctors, they'll ask you on a pain scale. We hate that in the Ehlers-Danlos world. We hate this question. On a pain scale from 1 to 10, what is your pain? And I'm like 0. And my husband started yelling at me. He's like, you have to tell them. And I'm like, but I'm used to this. And so they did an x-ray in the shoulder, and they're like, well, you have severe osteoarthritis, in this joint and a couple other joints. And I'm like, okay, so on a pain scale, doctor, what would you rate the pain of a severe? And he goes, oh, no, that's a 10. And I'm like, oh, well, then that's where I sit.
Yeah. It's a 0 for you. Right.
It's like, what do you want me to tell you on these questions? But, some days you're more tired than others, and some days you're not. And it just, all of them are different. And so I do a lot of social media on Ehlers-Danlos and try to give a voice to it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love how vulnerable you are and open about your experience with Ehlers-Danlos you are on your social media. How has your personal health journey influenced your work?
A lot. It has given me something to hold on to. I've been scared throughout the process, as most capable people are. When you get hit with something, you're afraid that you're going to lose your job. You're afraid you're going to, your world's already crashing. So you're afraid it all will crash around you. And I am so thankful to work for a company that helps me with the needs that I need to have in order to continue to go, and show me grace. And it has been my focus to keep me going. And my agents have kept me going. They're all behind me. They believe in me. And I'm very careful to not show everything behind the scenes on my social media on what I go through day to day. Some days it's a challenge to get off the couch, so I work from the couch. I don't show that on social media because I don't want agents to feel like they're brokers. I'm still here, but if they see that visually, they may have a second, glance at it. But EXP and working and my agents and all of the staff here have kept me pushing forward. I think I would have collapsed without it, to be honest.
That's amazing. I want to talk a little bit about fair housing.
Yes.
So fair housing is a critical issue in real estate, obviously, something we're really passionate about at 1EXP. So what changes do you think still need to happen in our industry to ensure that everybody has equal access?
Yeah, I am the fair housing queen here in Alaska. I teach a lot of fair housing classes. I also advocate all over my media for fair housing. One of the things that I just shared yesterday, actually, on fair housing is people may not realize all the different sectors that fair housing actually encompasses. So you have redlining, you have all of that. And redlining is where they get their data and decide what programs they're going to give to a certain area or a certain neighborhood. It's supposed to be illegal, still happens today. And one of the things I shared yesterday is healthcare. Depending on where you live is dependent on what kind of healthcare that they are offered in those areas. And that was an interesting report that came out by the United States Fair Housing Alliance. And I posted that yesterday. So there's a lot that go into fair housing. We have a lot more to do. It keeps those neighborhoods that have in big cities, which I don't have that problem here, but in big cities where they have the industrial areas. And so they'll have a lot of bad chemicals. They'll have a lot of, stuff that's not good for you to breathe, but they need to clean it up. But if it is in an area that shows that it's low economics, they're not going to clean it up. And then that makes health issues, that makes housing go down, that makes the value of housing go down. It's all together. So, fair housing is more than just screaming that everyone should have a home. There are things in play behind the scenes that people don't realize that keep people from obtaining a home or getting value from a home or getting help to fix a home, things of that nature. It is so broad. One of the things that I'm an advocate here in Alaska for, and I'm the chair of the DEI and fair housing for Alaska Realtor Association. And I had a friend come up to me at the convention and she goes, "Man, I admire you." And I'm like, "Why?" Because I'm really nothing special. I'm just a person. And she goes, "Because you're taking on one of those topics. You're taking on that topic." And here in Alaska, I'm going to tell you, DEI and the LGBTQ is a topic of roughness, of challenges. And I was on the LGBTQ Alliance, and one of the teachers, when I took some of their courses, said it right. Being an advocate can be deflating. It can be really deflating, especially when you're in a market with the temperature of old school, of how it is. And I'm not afraid to take that on, and I get beat up quite a bit. And that needs to be brought to light, especially in Alaska, because we have no laws to protect the LGBTQ here in Alaska for fair housing. We did for a year, and then it got taken away. And now the only complaints that are taken are complaints of employment. And so you have to go to, HUD.org and file a complaint, which sits on a desk, with files this tall. And
exactly. Yeah.
I have friends that can't even get a place to rent or things of that nature or a home, and have been denied because of the LGBTQ alliance that they're with or in or identify as, that type of stuff. So it's a real big thing up here. Gotta love the DMs I get.
I think the anti-DEI sentiment is real. There's a movement happening right now that has grown legs in a big way.
Yes.
And there's one man out there, an anti-DEI warrior, that has been going around, and today marks 9 companies now that he has threatened, and the company has buckled and shuttered their DEI programs or scaled back their DEI programs. And in every single one of those 9 instances, the first thing they did was shut off all support to the LGBTQ community at their
100%. 100%. And that can't happen. Whether, in my opinion, this is what I tell people in my class, because I'm very honest in my class. We're not kindergartners. I'm going to say it how it is. And if you find it triggering, feel free to go stand outside, have a cup of coffee if you need to. But everybody should have the right, whether you agree with their lifestyle or not, to have the same rights as you. It doesn't affect you. It doesn't harm you. It doesn't hurt you. So let everybody express who they are without ramifications. And that's how it should be. But unfortunately, that's not the way it is. And I've seen them changing the name of DEI. I said this at the Alaska Realtor Convention. I said, call it what you want. DEI, MET, all the other names that they're throwing out there to try and change it. The initiative is the same, and that's inclusivity. And that is what we are fighting for, is inclusivity. And that goes all the way from LGBTQ, all the way down to capable, all the way down to vets. I will say this, the NAR DEI committee was just one. There was many people, but they were just one group that helped lobby last year to ensure that vets were able to buy a home in this landscape of changing real estate.
Yeah.
It's inclusionatory. It's making sure everybody is able to do what everybody else is able to do, no matter their walk of life.
That's right. That's exactly it. And I think that, wanting your fellow Americans, fellow human beings, to have the same rights as every other human being to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That doesn't mean anybody committing a crime or doing anything wrong or hurt anybody else. Life, liberty, and there's more American than American pie, right?
Oh yeah.
It's the most American thing you could possibly want, is for everyone to have equal access. And DEI is not political. It's not. We do not have a political stance. We're not politically advocating for one thing or another. It goes across the spectrum.
We have a military network. We have a seniors network. We have young professionals. We have
Yes.
every ethnic background you can imagine represented. And the point of those groups is to build community and to network with people. And particularly for a company that is work from home and based all around the world, it's not easy to find community in a company that doesn't exist outside your computer.
Absolutely.
So
100%.
finding those threads where people can connect is so vitally important. And the one community that they go after is the LGBT community. And
Every time.
it's been politicized. And particularly, I'm not going to just say the LGBT community, I'm going to say particularly trans folks is something that is so politicized, and the existence of trans people is somehow an affront to the traditional family or Christian values. It's not. It absolutely is not. It's someone living their life and it has nothing to do with you. Right.
With how they want to live it, and let them be them. And I post about the DEI here and there, and I get asked sometimes, because I get some interesting comments on my post quite a bit, and I get asked, how come you don't delete those nasty posts? And I said, well, I wouldn't be an advocate of DEI if I deleted their voice. I may not like their voice. I may not agree with what they said, as long as they're not vulgar. I may not agree with what they said, but I'm going to leave their comment, because now it opens up for discussion. And isn't that what we're supposed to have, is some discussion? And, everybody else is making it more political. They're making it more about their personal agendas than what it's actually about. And that's what I've been telling people. Like I said, I've been telling everybody it boils down to inclusivity. I've had to have the argument of equity. And so correct me if I get wrong on this, because this is what I've been saying. So hopefully I'm right. But, people are like, well, we don't believe in the DEI because I don't feel that if you're, people that aren't qualified for a job just because they're this race or they're this gender, they shouldn't get the job. And I come back to them and say, I don't know where you heard that from, but that's not what equity is about.
That's
I
not
said,
what equity is about.
people should not get a job because based on another criteria other than the criteria of, are they capable of doing that job?
Yes.
Period. That's, but it's been changed over time for that. And that's the mindset I have to fight here in Alaska, is people really feel that DEI is advocating for, just because they might be Aleutian or they might be this, that they get the job over somebody else, no matter if they're skilled or not. And that's not.
I mean, I think, we illustrate equity in a way where we often have, there's a picture, right, of three people standing trying to look over a fence and to see a baseball game, right? Have you seen this image before?
Yes.
So, and there's a version of the image where, okay, one of the people is really tall, one of the people is medium height, and one of them is short. So we give the medium height guy one box to stand on and the short guy 2 boxes to stand on. That's equity. Now everybody can see over the fence. Where equality would be give everybody 1 box. Now the tall guy sees way over the fence. The medium guy's fine, and the short guy still can't see because he needed another box, right? And the better version of this is when that third person is not short, but in a wheelchair. So now we have to think outside the box. We don't just have boxes to hand out. We had to think of a new solution for that person. So we give a box to the person in the middle and we build a ramp for the person on the right. And what that means is not in any way, shape, or form, any affirmative action-y kind of, we have quotas for race or sexuality or anything like that. It's about the best person in here for the job. We're talking about the best mind for the job should have access to the job. And whatever we have to do to make that access equal, an equal playing field, we will do that. Like
my computer upstairs.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. I'm a person who probably could not have done this job if the company wouldn't have realized the limitations and specific way that I have to work, because I have to work in a very, very specific methodology to be able to do what I do with ADHD.
Yes.
Right. I've been in jobs where that was not allowed because this is the way we do it and you fit into this mold or it doesn't work.
Correct.
Equity is, I came to EXP and I said, I can do this. You just got to let me do it my way. And they said, okay.
And that's what they did with me. And it has helped us thrive here. And I really feel, and I thank you for your voice in the DEI, because I really feel that we need to get out there and have our voices heard more on really explaining what DEI is and taking out those outside influences that, in all honesty, don't know if this will be edited out or not, but other influences that came in and stole what we had for their own agenda and changed what the narrative is for others. And what the narrative really needs to be is exactly that right there. It allows me, equity is allowing me to be able to do a job by having a computer down here and a computer up there. That's the equity, because that's a need. It doesn't mean that I'm not capable for my job. And I really think that
and
we
it's
need
the
to
exact opposite of saying Victoria got her job because she's disabled.
Exactly.
The opposite of that. That's not what we're talking about.
Exactly. And I think that voice needs to be heard a lot more. And it's a challenging subject in today's temperature. So you do have to have some thick skin. And that's another reason why I love the EXP1 and the EXP Capable, is because we are a collective group of voices. We get overwhelmed. We get, deflated by giving our voice out there. We have a collective energy to refill our love bucket. That is so important.
Mm-hmm. And there's so many people at 1EXP and in EXP Capable who just want to pour into someone. We talked about this at the WIN Summit. We talk about this all the time. This has been a theme of 2024 for me, is that thought of pouring into someone and who's pouring into you and that business. So I think, all of these groups offer you the ability to learn and do more and do better, right?
And grow.
And grow.
Yeah.
And grow. It's amazing. And it has nothing, again, put a button on that one. It's not in the slightest a political thing, DEI.
No,
it's for everybody. That's the point, is that it's for everybody, right?
Yes. And we just got to continue to get that message out there. I know my mom, when I was first diagnosed, she was really upset with me for doing videos of Ehlers-Danlos, but I felt really alone. And there's still days where I do feel alone. I have my husband, who's a caretaker, who helps me out a lot, but he's not the one that's in pain every day. And some days it can get to you. And she's like, you need to not be putting that out there on Facebook and doing those videos. You're going to lose your job. And I said, you know what? That's an old way school of thinking. And if me doing videos on advocacy makes me lose my job, then I don't think we're aligned with the right company.
We're at the right job. Yeah.
And that is never going to happen at my job. And I'm so glad I was proven right that this would never happen, because, like I said, I always tell everybody I'm a huge advocacy of EXP, whether you're working for us or whether you're a client of one of our realtors. The backbone of the company is all about giving to others, and let's find solutions and thinking outside the box to make it work in whatever element we're in. And that is amazing.
And I can tell you, I believe in myself as an employee, and I am someone who's always been capable of performing at this crazy high level that I'm performing right now at EXP. And the only way that I'm able to do this is by coming to work as 100% my authentic self.
Yes.
Because I have never been able to or trusted myself to be able to perform at this level before, because I've never been able to be this authentic at work.
It's gonna make me cry. Doesn't that make you feel good? It just, not that we're trying to toot EXP's horn, but doesn't it make you feel good? I think other industries need to take a look at what other successful companies are doing that provide that. Because if you can make your employees, your clients, your realtors, whatever your clientele is going to be, feel good and be themselves, your production and everything is just going to soar through the roof.
Yeah. That, I think, all the time back to preparing for Women's History Month this year.
Yes.
And when we started working with the one and only Betsy Myers, who's contracted with EXP right now to help us build out WIN, she's someone, if you don't know Betsy, I'll give you the very, very short version, is she's been the most vocal advocate for women in the workplace in the United States.
period, in the past 10 years. She worked in 2 different presidential administrations. She's someone who has Oprah's phone number. Like,
Wow.
Betsy is cool. And I tell this story to tell you that the first time that I came to Betsy and I said, hey, here's what we've got. What did she say back to me? The first thing she said back to me, what do you think? I can't
Very
tell
humble.
you.
Love
I can't
that.
tell you how big that made me feel. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It was like a moment of like, this person who I followed and respected and looked up to for a long time,
They see you.
wanted my opinion.
Yeah, they see you. And that is so important for people to feel seen.
And that I'm saying that to you to say you have that power.
Oh,
Right?
I don't think
do
so,
that.
but thank you.
No, I'm saying to everybody listening to this, you included, you have that power to make someone feel that way by, when they come to you with something, see how they feel.
Oh,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Get their opinion on it. That is it is a big deal. It goes a long way, and I think that's something this company does really well. And Betsy just illustrates that because she's such a larger than life presence. But when I have an issue that's much bigger than me that I have to run up the chain, I've never once had a situation where they didn't say, "What's your take on it?"
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's a big, big deal.
And on Women's History Month, just to throw it out there, I have a woman for you, to where without her, we would not have some of the fair housing we have. And she's an Alaskan woman, and her name is Elizabeth Petrovich. And you can Google her. I can send you information. It was about late 1800s, 1900s when Elizabeth came in. She was big on making the Territorial Settlement Act. And that is the catalyst that started the fair housing throughout the decades. She was one of those. It came from Alaska. And when I have a class I teach on that about Elizabeth Petrovich, she was Aleut, and she talked about discrimination. I mean, they were called such horrible names. They had to fight Congress for it. But talking about fair housing, it was absolutely amazing because at that point, Alaska was a territory. So the Territory Settlement Act came into play, and she had a huge role in that. And her fighting for housing rights and things of that nature is what really helped the movement along. And then we got Martin Luther King. And Martin Luther King, he was like what you're talking about. He was that voice, and that he could just get the masses by just talking, And so he gave a voice to more, but Elizabeth Petrovich was one of the women that really started that before he did and had his platform. And
That's
so,
amazing.
And she does have a picture hanging in DC.
That's awesome. Sounds like an exhibit we need to add to the Women's History Museum.
Yeah, she's amazing. She ended up dying of breast cancer, unfortunately. So I do a lot of breast cancer awareness, but we do have an Elizabeth Petrovich Day, February 16th. And
That's
so
awesome.
we celebrate that here in Alaska, but she is an amazing woman. So I have somebody amazing for you to add to that.
That's awesome. I can't wait. So I want to we talked a lot about fair housing and the LGBT community, but I want to talk about fair housing for the capable community, right?
Oh, that's rough. Yes.
I think it's something that I always, because of the way I was raised and what's ingrained in me. I'm not a real estate agent, but it's something that I think would always be in my mind when I'm seeing a house is how accessible is this house so I can put it in my Rolodex when I have someone who's differently able to come to me, right?
And there's so few ADA compliant homes out there. And for you to market with the words ADA, it has to meet certain criteria.
Right.
And very few builders do that. But there are homes out there now that do have the wider doorways, do have other things. They're not fully ADA compliant because, in my opinion, I don't think you can make a home fully ADA compliant because you might have somebody in a chair and somebody that can still stand for a short amount of time. But for me, bending over because of my back. That dishwasher being on the lower level kills me. And the stove, taking a turkey out of that, I need a wall oven, and it would be nice to have the dishwasher raised up for me, and so I don't think you can really make a kitchen fully ADA, but there is not very many homes that have ADA compliance in there. And so they live in a world where they have to try and get through things in the roughest ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't realize how much I knew about this until we were building for Seniors Month. We made a senior interactive home in frame. And as we were going through, I'm like, this looks like my dad's house. Like, then I was like, wait a minute. Senior homes are just ADA compliant homes, right?
Yes. So I tell my realtors, I have a realtor now who has a house listed. It's not ADA compliant because, like I said, they have specific check boxes, and I don't necessarily agree with their specific check boxes because there's so many different, capabilities out there. But I did tell her you can put down there handicap accessible, extra wide doorways, larger sinks, or a bench in the shower. Extremely important. A handle, extremely important. You have those safeguards. So you can put down there handicap accessible, but you can't use the word ADA. But we need more. Right.
And accessible homes are just as important because you never know if it's someone who just has to use a wheelchair to get from the bed to the couch. If you've got the ability for that with good transitions between your flooring and wide doorways and high countertops with nothing underneath so somebody can roll underneath. If you've got a roll-in shower,
I love those.
They're few and far between. But these are things that we can, as realtors, advise our clients about. Like if you really wanted to sell your house to a particular niche, right, then there are ways that you could do those upgrades to your house before you move out of it that you would be giving back to society in a big way, because there are handicapped people and people with these different ability levels in your community. There absolutely are. And
or start when you're building. If you're building a new home, you might not make the kitchen ADA compliant, but you can make extra wide hallways, extra wide doors, open spaces. I know at times when I have to use my walker, we've rearranged the whole upstairs because when I do have to use it, I couldn't get around because I kept bumping things and hitting things. And so we had to move things around. So those are small things you can do that not only help you sell your house, because then you could put handicap accessible, but they also make your home look better and they make bigger. More
that open concept thing. That's really compliant. And you also think about, talking a lot with the Seniors Network about this piece is if you ever hear someone use the term forever home, like this is the last house I ever want to live in, then you need to it's smart to future-proof that forever home for when you're older and less able than you are now, right?
Absolutely.
So you think about the grab bars and the wide hallways, and what if someone that I love or myself winds up in a wheelchair or needs a walker, right? Then you think about those things, and then you future-proof your house, right? So it's more than just about you right now, right? You have to think about the future, and what if I made a new best friend, right? And that person happened to be differently abled, and I wanted them to come over to my house, right? Am I going to have to go meet them in a restaurant? Am I going to have to go to their house? Or am I going to have a home where there's a ramp, not stairs?
Absolutely. I will say one house that I've been in that I remember that is very accessible. And I'm going to take this flavor because you said the word forever home. And me and my husband laugh at that word forever home on a personal note, because we like to go energy hunting, ghost hunting. It is a hobby of ours that we like to do. And if you watch every one of the shows, they always say, this is my forever home as they're running out the yard. So, and so I chuckled there. But one of the homes I will say, if you ever get a chance to go there, Cody, is in California. And it's the Winchester House. I don't know if many people know, but she suffered from severe osteoarthritis. So her stair riser, she has stairs, because she kept She kept adding on to the house and adding on to the house to keep the evil spirits away for having the family Winchester stuff, right? So everything's 13 in there, all this great stuff, but her stairs, they don't bother me because her risers are an inch apart. So throughout her whole house, you're going upstairs and you don't feel it because the risers are an inch apart. So she's barely having to lift her leg. So you don't have to use very many spoons, very many muscles. And when we were done, they said we just walked like the length of 2 football fields, and I couldn't even tell it. I didn't even know. And so when I think of like an extreme case of, handicap accessible, those stair risers in her house, I'll never forget them. I told my husband, we need to do that with these stairs. We need to make them an inch high and all the way up. And then I would have no problem because it worked for Mrs. Winchester.
I'm going to have to Google this because I can't picture it. I'm going to have to Google this.
Yes.
All right. We're coming up on time. We always end with the same question, and I'll ask the question to you. Somebody's brand new. It's their first day at EXP today. What advice do you give them?
The advice that I got that I don't want you to ever do is fake it till you make it. Don't fake it till you make it, man. That's the advice I was told, and I ran into so much trouble. Be open, be coachable, want to learn, want to level yourself up. And as I said before earlier in this podcast, following a wheel that's already invented may feel uncomfortable, but until you get the basics down, do not sparkle that baby up. Get the basics and then add your own flair to it. But be coachable, be open, and give yourself grace. I think giving ourselves grace, whether you're capable, whether you're not capable, well, I mean, you're always capable, so that came out wrong. But whether you're capable or, whatever you're doing, you need to give yourself grace because everyone is going to have a rough day. Everyone's going to mess up. Don't allow yourself to go down that rabbit hole. Pick yourself back up and find the solution and move forward. Grace is where it's at.
That's beautiful. I love that. Find your grace is lovely.
Yes.
I really love that. Well, Victoria, it's been really, really cool having you on here. I'm so glad we got the opportunity to talk. I just want to give a brief shout out. The next episode we're doing of this podcast is going to be a very special, very different episode. We're going to be presenting EXP CultureCast live from EXPCon. And it will be me and my intrepid partner in crime, Morgan Johnson, doing a retrospective over the past 2 seasons of CultureCast and talking about some of our favorite moments, some of our challenges, some of our successes, and where we want to go in the future with the CultureCast. So I hope you guys will tune in. That episode is coming later on in October. For those of you who are celebrating like I am, thank goodness it's October. It's spooky season. Get in the spirit, have some pumpkin spice, eat some candy corn, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of CultureCast. If you have time, please be sure to scan the QR code on screen now to leave us a review on Glassdoor. See you next time.